There are many poems, novels, plays, and films that are influences or based on the stories in Greek mythology. Therefore, our group chose the play and poem to tell the stories in the theme of love. First, the story of Hermia and Lysander from the play A Midsummer Night's Dream relate to the story of Pyramus and Thisbe, which is affectionate love. Another story from the same play that relates to the passionate love story of Apollo and Daphne in Greek mythology is the story of Helena and Demetrius. Lastly, the Great Fire's poem is influenced by the story of Orpheus and Eurydice. It's its affectionate love. And the difference between affection and passion is affection means true or sacrificed love, while passion is just desire.
This play is in Act 1, Scene 1, lines 171 to 181 of A Midsummer Night's Dream, a comedy written by William Shakespeare that appeared in the story of Lysander and Hermia, two of the main characters. The background of the story. Theseus, the Duke of Athens, is preparing for his marriage to Hippolyta, Queen of Amazons. Aquarius seeks the Duke's intervention because his daughter Hermia will not agree to his choice of Demetrius as a husband since she is in love with Lysander. The Duke tells Hermia to obey her father, or either die or escape alive as a nun in Diana's temple. Lysander and Hermia plan to elope. Hermia swears to Lysander by several things that she will meet him at a spot tomorrow. My good Lysander, I swear to thee by Cupid's strongest bow, by his best arrow with the golden head, by the simplicity of Venus' drove, by the which Nietzsche souls and Prosperous loves, and by the fire which burned the Carthage queen, when the four Trojan and the seal were seen, by all the vows that evil men have broke, in number more than even women spoke. In that same place thou hast appointed me, tomorrow truly will I meet with thee. This play presents the promise between Lysander and Hermia that they will meet each other at the place only they know. So, this scene is the same as Pyramus and Thisbe that plan to meet another one at Nina's tomb.
The story of Hermia and Lysander in the play A Midsummer Night's Dream is similar to the story of Babylonian lovers, Pyramus and Thisbe in the Greek mythology. Their stories were forbidden love because their parents didn't allow them to have a relationship with or marry their lovers. Hermia's fathers wanted her daughter to marry another man, while parents of Pyramus and Thisbe were enemies. They even wouldn't let their son and daughter talk to each other. However, the lovers could find a way to communicate through the narrow chink in the wall. Both lovers couldn't stand with the things that their parents did with them, so they decided to flee, but their plan had failed. Although the problem that they faced was similar, their ending was different. While Hermia and Lysander could marry at the end, Pyramus and Thisbe were dead because of the monster and misunderstanding. The Babylonian lovers planned to meet each other at the Diana's tomb under the mulberry tree. Pyramus misunderstood that Thisbe was killed by Arne, so he killed himself with his sword. When Thisbe found Pyramus' corpse, she used his sword to murder herself. It is clear that their relationships are affection. They fell in love with each other. They faced many obstacles, but they still kept their relationship and tried to get through together.
This dialogue occurred in the story of Helena and Demetrius, two of the main characters in The Midsummer Night's Dream, a comedy play written by William Shakespeare in Act 2, Scene 1, line 231. Helena is the friend of Hermia. the female lead in the play. Hermia loved Lysander, but her father has ordered her to marry Demetrius. Now, to complicate things, Helena is in love with Demetrius, but he does not return her feelings because he is in love with Hermia. After Demetrius ran off into the forest, Helena tagged along behind him. He wished Helena would quit stalking him, so he said to her that he will run away from her, hide in the bushes, and leave her to be eaten by a wild beast. Helena saddened with Demetrius' speech. Therefore, she said to him that the wild has not such a heart as you. Run when you will. The story shall be changed. Apollo flies, and Daphne holds the chase. The dog pursues the griffin, the mined hind makes speed to catch the tiger, bootless speed, when cowardice pursues and valor finds. Which is expressed how her pursuit of Demetrius reversed the usual state of affairs, in which the strong man pursues the weak woman. Helena couches this idea of reversal in a reference to the myth of Apollo and Daphne.
Similar to the story of Apollo and Daphne, in Act 2, lines 231 to 232 from A Midsummer Night's Dream, Helena alludes to the story of how Apollo was struck by Eros' golden arrow and chased Daphne around the world, who was turned into a roller tree. As a plea to her father to escape him, she was struck with a leaden arrow by Eros. Therefore, she filled with hatred for Apollo. To relay her current situation of following her love, Demetrius, deep into the woods, despite his imploring of her to leave as he wishes to find Hermia, who he wants to marry instead of the rejected Helena, also adding desperately that the story will be changed to showcase how determined she is to prove her love for Demetrius and make him hers. The story of Apollo and Daphne in mythology. Apollo mocked Eros for playing with bows and arrows because they were meant for wars instead of love. In anger, Eros shot an arrow made of lead at a tree named Daphne to make her hate Apollo, and a golden arrow at Apollo, so that he loved and desired marriage to Daphne for the first time of seeing her. Apollo began to chase Daphne, but they were evenly matched in speed until Apollo asked Eros to help him catch her. Seeing that Apollo was bound to catch up, in this situation, Daphne asked help from her father, Peneus, to change Daphne to a bay tree forever. Apollo vowed to honor her forever. He also used his powers of eternal youth and immortality to render Daphne evergreen.
Poem from the Great Fires, page 132. Passion is a pear, and twigs that kindle flames, but cannot sustain them. It is so precious, because it tries to be love. Love is eaten away by appetite. Love does not last, but it is different from the passions that do not last. Love lasts by not lasting. The poem is from The Great Fires by Jack Gilbert. In this poem, he compared himself as Orpheus. Jack Gilbert really wanted to tell that there is no way to have one without the other, even if the death has come, but the love always still, like Orpheus and his wife, Eurydice.
Linking to Greek mythology, Orpheus and Eurydice's story was the expression love, even though the story ended with tragedy. The story was about Orpheus who devoted himself to bring his lover, Eurydice, back from the underworld. He almost could bring his wife back to life. Unfortunately, Orpheus was not in the condition from Hades and Persephone of the underworld that he was forbidden to look at Eurydice until they reached the upper world, so she was sent back to the underworld forever. After that, he was in grief and always played sad songs in the wild.
The stories in Greek mythology influence on many literatures in various ways, such as theme, character, plot, and setting. Accordingly, if we know all about Greek mythology, it will make us have insight into poems or novels that we read, plays, or film that we watch, and even the arts like the painting and sculpture that we appreciate.